And um and hello. I'm so excited to chat with Arwen today on how to spot counterfeit decks. I am embarrassed to say that even though I have been reading professionally for close to 20 years, and am a professional theater artist, and like artists are my world. I never thought that there would be a counterfeit tarot deck, nor that there would be lots of them out there affecting people that are now good friends of mine. And Arwen was going to be doing a class for, was it Mobbin? Mystic Mobbin?
Yeah, it was last year. I was going to be doing a class that was going to just cover, I think, how to do tarot, how to be tarot, and how to find, if you had counterfeit decks. But I wasn't able to do that. And Kate, thankfully, took over my spot or spots. I don't remember.
Yeah. And thankfully, you were going to be teaching a class on counterfeit tarot and how to spot it, because I had literally never thought that that could be a thing. And part of what you had mentioned in some of the like telltale signs, I was like, oh, I think I was gifted a counterfeit deck. And I don't actually know. And so that, in fact, is part of the impulse of today's class. Yep. This one right here. And I show and demonstrate this not at all to shame the person who gifted me this deck. I think I very much trust that they had no idea, no shame here, just education. Because interestingly, one of the things that she and I were actually both excited about was the QR code here on the end, and the fact that it is a smaller size deck, because my hands aren't that big. In fact, I am one who will sometimes like cut off my edges so that they fit my hands better.
I'm laughing because this is an argument I've had with Thalassa.
It is
because I actually have really big hands. And so I prefer to have larger size decks. My go-to working deck, as I like to call it, is large. But yeah, that's, it's the Albano, the big size one.
So, Arwen, I am going to toss this over to you. What are some of the telltale signs for counterfeit tarot? How, like, when all of the things?
Well, I think that I'm embarrassed to say that I have bought, not counting this last dozen that I got in a very cheap group from someone I buy stones from, who didn't know, right? They don't know this, and that's one of the reasons we're educated. But I've probably gotten close to a dozen and a half that I've bought. I was very excited to get a, still makes me cry, a Raymond Buckland Romani Tarot. And the Buckland Romani Tarot, or Romani, I don't know the correct pronunciation, sorry guys, it's an old deck and it's a collectible deck. And I used to be, I've stopped. I want to put that out there. I'm selling a lot of my decks. It used to be one of the really highly collectible decks, and I wanted to get it. And I got this deck and I was like, wow, the art's really kind of crappy. It's, it was a little blurred here and there. It was like miscut here and there. And I thought, wait a second. And there was no book in it. And I thought, the hell? But there was a Q code on it. And I like Q codes. I'm pretty techie, right? Unfortunately, when you use that Q code, sometimes you're taken to a PDF, it might be in Spanish, it might be in another language. And I'm going to try very hard not to point fingers, but I can't. There is one country that is responsible for the majority of these fake decks. And the person I bought these decks from that I have in my hand, I bought a sample of them, does live in China. And is a lovely human being. Right? When I told them, they were like, "Oh God, let me send you your money back." I'm like, "No, it's okay. It's my mistake." The Q code, I want to make a quick statement about the Q code. Some independent deck producers, deck artists, deck authors use the Q code. Okay. So when you're buying a deck secondhand, that's when you have to watch out. What you want to do is you say, send me pictures of the sides of the box, the top, the back, the front. People do that to me all the time because they want to know the condition. Fair enough. But you're going to see that this one, here's another thing. http://tarotdeck.top. Let me look at yours and see if that's on there too.
It just says scan for guidebook.
Okay, yeah. And they will say scan for guidebook. These are these are all tarot deck. Now these have them. Here's one, and they even do, well, y'all, nobody's safe. I know that several of the decks I've authored are out there.
Yeah, I saw one in your hand, didn't I?
No.
Oh no! I thought Cirque du Tarot was garden dragons.
And this is by Lisa Robertson.
Yeah, that's pretty new.
Lisa, we should get her on here and just show her the fake deck and let her go. She's Australian. I like the Australians, but you'll see. I don't know if you can see that there is a boopy doop. You see that Q code down there?
Yeah.
Mass publishers of tarot: Llewellyn, Schiffer, Hay House, U.S. Games, Llewellyn. I know I'm forgetting somebody.
Wiser.
Thank you, Wiser. And I did Schiffer. They don't use Q codes.
No, they don't.
I would, if they started using them, that'd be cool, right? U.S. Games does offer quite a few of their books on their site as PDFs. So, pro tip, if you lose your deck, you can go look there for it, or you can actually email any of those companies and ask them if they have a spare book. Now, if it's what they call the LWB, the little white book, should be no problem. But calling these little white book, I digress. Little white book is a term that really needs to go out of the lingo.
Yeah.
Because,
Lexicon.
I'm not putting hours and hours of work into a little white book. I could do one of those in probably 3-4 hours, right? It's just keyword, blah, 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 keyword, blah, blah, blah. So I have here Cirque du Tarot by Lisa Robertson. I have what I believe is an independent deck, the Wandering Moon Tarot.
Oh, yeah.
And it has absolutely no information on it about the author, but it does have a Q code. Now, this, no writing on the back, on the sides, it's expensive to produce these. So some individual, some indie artists and indie authors,
you can put that. I put it here on purpose.
I didn't want to, mar your table. But they do like Secrets of the Wandwood, an Enchanted Woodland deck. And it has stuff about Matlock the Hare. Oh, Matlock. I actually have one of the Matlock decks. I knew I recognized this art. But you'll see I haven't even opened these. Because, I can't figure out what to do with them. The Universal Weight Tarot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is starting to get mass produced everywhere because the Coleman Smith Waite copyright finally did go out. The judge finally said, no, sorry, U.S. Games, it's more than 75 years.
That actually copyright is not only 75 years, it's whoever holds the copyright. So if somebody has purchased or been inherited the copyright, the copyright can still last.
And that was their original court case, and it did not hold
Well, let's just put it
because
out there
they purchased it.
let's
Because
put out there that I work for US Games.
yeah,
That's my primary company that I work for. And I honor and value Stuart's vision. And
wonderful person.
I think kept this tarot deck from being, lost forever.
And that just it. That was unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, they didn't uphold it, or at least the last time I was looking at the legal stuff, because but I have seen this influx of Smith weight, Rider weight, universal weight, just like a deluge in the last 3 years.
And it is, as an author of fiction books, my fiction books have been so widely pirated that if I tried to figure out how much I lost,
oh, I know,
on that, it's easily not $250,000, but somewhere under that I have lost. I didn't lose it, I never had it, but I could have it.
Would have been pretty helpful.
Right.
and and that's one of those things that as you said, certain countries do not honor copyright at all.
That, and I'll tell you what, that I want to see, because they actually have Llewellyn or Lascaravio on here. Another way you can tell is to look at the deck that and now see it's got US Games Systems Incorporated over here. I'm going to open this one because we're all pretty familiar with this guy.
And
Yeah.
I happen to have a non-counterfeit one that we can do a.
So you can already see sizes big. They're cut size. I can't mean because I don't have them.
Do you need my fingernail help?
Yes, I don't have fingernails now. But it is it's very important for us as a community to want. Some people will say, well, I can't get that deck where I am, so I'll just get it this way. That's not okay.
No, it's not.
It's not okay, guys, because, and here's another thing. They're not plastic wrapped. Look at the back first, and you can see the difference. I don't know if it'll show up. We may want to show it, but you can see the difference in color and resolution.
The density of the stars on the back.
Yeah. And these are
yeah.
They're not terrible socks. They're not, right? But these are basically poker sized. And
there's definitely just holding them between my fingers. The counterfeit one feels about half the thickness of the legitimate deck. And honestly, this one feels like the just like flimsy cheap playing cards. Like that's what this feels like. It feels
the card stock weight and the finish, the texture on the finish is another one that I've found.
And and
here's another thing. I just opened this deck brand new. The first card is the Two of Cups. I'm sorry, Two of Pentacles. Now, anybody knows Ace first, right? This card does 2 through Ace, which is a poker shuffling, right?
Oh,
so that's another thing to look at, is that they will be.
Oh, thank you.
And
order of cards when packed.
This one actually, no, the ace isn't, oh no, so the ace is in the front. It's screwed up. Find your fool, and let's just look at the fool and see. Find your fool.
Yeah, there's no fools around here.
My Arlecchino masks are in Portland.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I got the two.
Oh, good.
The two came out pretty quickly. Talking about juggling
Yeah.
fools.
Okay, and you can
Well,
see clearly here, it's the same image. It's been reduced, which has densened some of the colors. The color density has been chomped in. So this is like, oop, oop, oop. Okay, so that is the fake.
okay.
And that is not. So I'm going to do this because it's very clear when you do that. The color
Well,
difference.
not only the color difference, but the sharpness
Yeah,
of
it's
features and
when you look at, trying to get really close so I can like, okay, when you look at his face, the coloring,
yeah.
you see that, guys? It's
It's
so
not
much different.
yeah. And the coloring, I refer to it as sharpness or detail on the features on the face.
Yeah, it's very
Sure.
self-evident that it is. Yeah, if you want to show them the fools or
Yeah.
Because what we have here is blatant piracy.
Yeah. Yeah, the differences can be subtle, but they can be found.
Yeah. And to be super clear about the two decks that we're comparing, this Universal Weight Smith is the first. It's the deck that I bought myself when I did my first professional, when I was getting ready for my first professional convention reading for in the summer of 2000. So this deck has seen a lot of years. So there's also going to be some color differentiation and fading and like all of the darkness around the sides. Like that's from years and years and years of shuffling. So we're not quite doing a true apples to apples comparison because my Universal Weight Smith deck is most definitely not brand new.
Now, if you find a deck that's super cheap, it has a Q code, it's probably a ripped off deck. It's stolen. Somebody was a thief when they made it. Are you a thief when you buy it? If you do it intentionally, knowingly, then I'm going to judge you and say, yeah, you're a thief.
You're complacent.
You're complicit in the act. Now, and again, going back to I can't get it here. It's expensive to, ship here. Guys, it's expensive to get a deck from an independent deck maker in a different country. Even Ethany, who's in Canada, her decks are worth the money. It's worth paying. And this goes back, if you're old enough, haha, I know you are, you're my age, or in my age group, and it is, you go back to, well, I made a mixtape. Okay, a mixtape I'm fine with. But here, I got this Beatles album, it's like white and it's double, I taped it for you. It's theft. And people say, well, I'm not paying $19 for a hardback. The publishing company doesn't need that money. Maybe not. But the people who read it, the people who edited it, the people who, framed it and did the copy layout and the artists, yeah, they kind of deserve their money.
And also, I don't think, I understand why you're saying that. And with tarot, I come from, one of the other hats that I wear in the world is as a union stagehand with IATSE. And so from both the on camera and off camera world, like I'm familiar with piracy from a film perspective,
Mhm.
and so many times people think about, well, it's not hurting these mega stars because they got their, $1 million or what have you for starring in it, and that is true. But what that actually hurts are the stagehands and the smaller performers that count on the residual checks, that count on the money that goes into our like larger health and welfare, because a lot of times residuals like feed right into health and welfare or 401k or education funds, depending on, each each local structure and so on. And that is like quite literally taking money out of the hands of workers and of creators. And so I feel like, and this is actually a question because I don't actually know how residuals, if that's even like the right
Royalties.
word for the tarot creation world, like how that works, because where my mind initially goes is, okay, if I get this counterfeit deck of Lisa Robertson, how this counterfeit deck of Cirque de Tarot, how much would Lisa and Josh Tufts have gotten for the sale of the actual deck? How much, because some things like the printers and the people who do the layout and the
The
coloring
shipping,
and
the packing.
oh yeah, that like I presume that the colorists and the layout people, that's like a flat fee and an hourly fee. It's not.
No. Now for me, I do
Uh-huh.
write for hire for some of my decks.
Okay.
Lisa Hunt and I did the Fairy Tale of Norman, and it is of royalties, which means I also get a part of whatever the sale is. And this is a little deck. It's been out since I can't remember, but I'm still getting royalty checks for it. And the royalty checks are, part for me, part for Lisa, part for US Games. And when you say that the artist or the author has already gotten theirs for a movie or whatever, they still have people to support in their lives. They still have assistants, nannies, whatever. And they work their ass off to do that.
My brother-in-law is now retired from local 44.
Yeah. Yeah, local 44, local 28 here.
Yeah, he was a studio prop maker for 40 years.
Awesome.
And you don't do that in those costumes unless you've been an actor. And we not only the theft of intellectual property, but the taking the money away from all of the support personnel, all of the artists is a biggie for me. And I've only ever, I didn't knowingly do it at the time, but I figured out that I bought a counterfeit deck, which started my interest in all this. I knew they were out there because I had told Kate earlier, I work out of a bookstore in Pasadena.
Oh yeah.
On South Lake. South Lake is the Pasadena's equivalent of Rodeo Drive. And they carry about 300 different decks at any one time, but they always go through publishers if they don't buy it directly from an artist.
Yeah.
And they make sure they go through real publishers. Well, during the pandemic, I had actually seen somebody else that I knew within the tarot community, I'm not going to say who had said something about having bought a Chubby Bunny deck. Chubby Bunny is a really cute, think like the Gummy Bear Tarot and okay, that kind of, that was done in Japan. And I bought it through Mr. Bezos because that was, they had talked about, and it was a really good, and almost instantly when I got it for me that the telltale, excuse me, the telltale that there's something not right here is on the box was printed limited edition number 392 of 1,000 off Amazon. So I went and looked up the publishers, and using online AI translators wrote to the artist and the original company, and got back a thank you. And could I send them the details of my, not my credit card numbers, but everything else about when I ordered it, etc. And said, that version of our deck, because it was version 2, has been sold out for 5 years. And we know who has deck 392 because they were a limited edition artist run.
Wow. It's really good to contact the publishers and do that. If you're I know that they're going to say, thank you very much. There's very little they can do. The companies that are making these out of our reach. I bought the Buckland deck, the Buckland Romney deck that I bought was from Russia. And and you think, oh, I'm buying this deck in another language, I can just use the art. Well, yeah, you can, but if it's still a stolen deck,
it's still a stolen deck.
And I'm Wiccan, so that is a lot to play in. There's a thing that says
×3.
You can't trust a witch. If you can't trust her words, you can't trust a witch. That sort of thing. And so
stand thee for thine own word.
I mean, I cheat, right? I break laws, y'all, but I break the good ones. But it's there's really no excuse to me for intentionally and knowingly buying a deck. And my thing is that I am now left. I bought 12 of these. I should have known, But this woman sells stuff. She's a rock seller, and that's where she makes her money. And there's a lot of ethics behind buying rocks from somebody. So don't even get me started, because I'm trying not to be the worst. But what do you do with them after you got them?
The only thing I'm doing with mine, well, one, I have a collection of about 150 decks right now. Most of which I was given from the store because, as I described it, South Lake is like Rodeo Drive. So they put out sample decks, and if the boxes start to get a little shop worn, they pull out a new deck and put it up as a sample. And I would stand there with the basket as they threw out the old decks, and collect them.
Yeah.
And I used the deck that I bought, and I realized instantly was counterfeit and confirmed. I've been using it as a teaching tool for my meetup and for my students to teach them what a counterfeit deck can look like and some of the things. That's why I wanted to come for this today. And I have picked up a couple of things that I did not think about, like order of the cards when you open the deck, etc. But what I do is I literally keep them with my damaged decks. In those sample decks, there are a few that are missing cards or somebody has written on them. And so I have one drawer of that dresser is what we call the damaged decks.
Yeah.
Use them as teaching tools. That's all I'll do with it.
Yeah, I've got a bag of spare cards, i.e. ruined decks, what cards I could save. And it's just a plastic bag, and I will take it, and if I'm sending somebody something in the mail, like I have mugs available, but I have some that I send out to people, and I'll pull a card and stick it in there. If I'm sending, somebody bought a deck, sometimes I'll pull a card, write a note, and send it with them. Just as something personalized, basically.
I like the idea of making art with it.
Yeah.
Like it could take me
And that's what I was
decoupage all of the things. But then also coming back to the debate of chopping decks or not. Like I know
I didn't know this was a horror movie.
Oh, when my very first StarCon, Melissa Lucia was there, and she was teaching a class on doing, I don't remember the exact name, but it was on like other things that you can do with your cards.
Speaking of which,
Yeah. Oh, hello. It is like we conjured you, Melissa. Hello. I am talking about the maybe you can, your timing, seriously, which could not be better.
yeah, that was scary.
So, my love, what was the name of the class that you taught at StarCon with where you invited us to chop decks for framing, to pull out like stars as ways to use decks that no longer had a use for us, which very well may include counterfeit decks that we have inadvertently gotten in our lives.
Yeah. Peephole portals, baby. Peephole portals.
Peephole portals. And so that was one of the that after creating art with it, the second thing that came to my mind was to create peephole portals of like, okay, well, I want the dog in this one, and I want the pentacles in this one, and then literally turn it into a little chop them up and turn them into little charm bags.
I turned them into jewelry.
Turn them into jewelry. Yeah.
And that's why I went like this, because I was wearing it yesterday and it's not in this room. It's back. I've actually put it away. I don't know if you remember a few years back, probably a decade and a half, the Tarot of the New Vision. They did a little version, but it was misprinted.
Oh.
It had the same image for the tower and the moon, and they didn't realize it till they had sent out these cute little decks. Well, we immediately, with the first time they opened up the sample deck, they realized it. My manager called the publishing company and told them, and they said, yes, we know, throw those away, we're sending you a new order. They didn't even want them sent back.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, great, landfill. And they said, use it for whatever you want, turn them into collages.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
So I took them and I turned them into pendants.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that the thing that I put with them says what deck it is and where it was from. But I have a thing about Earth Girl recycling, not putting stuff in landfills.
Yeah.
So I turned them into jewelry.
Yeah, like there's part of me that thinks, ooh, you could use them and write spells on them and burn them, but not knowing what they're coated with, I'm like, I don't know actually if I want that burned.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't feel good.
And one of the things that is I want to make sure that the artists at least get credit. And so what I told some of my jewelry students was, if you're going to do this, make sure you buy the deck so that they get paid.
Yeah, and you might be able to put like a magazine label on the back, and if you're, just trying to think of other ways you could use it besides, because my first reaction was I wanted to throw them all in the trash. And I said, no, I can't do that. Well, maybe I can give them away. Well, no, I can't do that either. Because again, they're fake decks. I'm not going to put them back out in the world. It's like,
and I won't. If somebody asked me if I was going to do it with the counterfeit deck I ended up with, and I think I have a couple of others that I need to go through and find that have been given to me by people over the years. Yeah. And I said, I don't want to use them even in the jewelry because the artist hasn't been paid for it.
Right.
I mean, the decks that I did turn into jewelry, the artist had been paid for. I went through the publishing company. I made sure that they were
Yeah, those weren't
accounted
counterfeit.
for, and the publishing company said, yeah, throw them away. That gave me permission to say, okay,
In
the
fact,
old,
if
if
you
it's in the trash, the government can take it. Well, I did the same thing.
yeah, because I
And I,
have a deck. U.S. Games discovered it was the Maria de Celia. It's by Lynn. Oh gosh, Narisco. Lynn, I'm sorry, I cannot remember your name, sweetheart. But it was a little 10 deck, and I love the 10, Joe. I'm all about those 10s. I think that was one of the best things ever. That and Shipper's magnetic boxes. Oh, so, but
yeah,
it has things get through, y'all. I'll tell you about a very famous romance novel that's out there in the wild with a very inappropriate mistake. But this deck had the author, he's the author and the artist, he had his name spelled wrong.
Oh no.
And
Wow.
nobody caught it.
Oh.
Right? And
Oh,
they've done his decks. He did the Vanessa Tarot. I mean, it's
oh,
yeah.
no name.
got the wrong name.
Mm.
And there's a card in there that they had to switch out. There was a card that some people took as very offensive. So they blanked out an entire shipment. And I got an email and I wrote back and said, "Can I keep one?" They said, "Yes." I said, "And can I have permission to sell it like within 5 years of getting it? Or after I've had it for 5 years?" They said, "Yes." So, I mean, I've got that deck still. Yes, I can sell it now. And I'm still like, so I'm still waffling about
I
that.
kept one complete deck of the Tarot of the New Vision that was misprinted as a collector's item. It's a misprint, like stamps that get misprinted.
And I wanna make sure that this conversation, because it will be, viewed in other ways in other places with Arwen's followers up on Group Tarot YouTube, that that we make really clear that misprinting is completely different than counterfeiting, because I feel like we got off on a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah, and that's kind of, yeah, I wanted to say I won't use a counterfeit deck to make the piece of jewelry. I'll use a misprinted one because I don't want to, like I said, the counterfeit deck that I know I have, I only use as a teaching tool.
Yep.
To look out for counterfeit decks.
Yeah. LSA, I see your hand. Chime in.
The hand's going up. So have you all done, and so good, and Arwen, I have missed you. I haven't seen you in far too long. I've gotten to see Kate in real life, which has been amazing. But have you all done have you done an overview of, did I come on late? Did you miss this? Because I talked to Carrie Paris about this, and I'm doing my Nordic Witch casting kit, and I'm having some struggle about thinking about printing in China. And I know people have other reasons with struggles, and this is no racism toward these people. This is where decks are printed, and there are people who are hustling around things. It's just But have you all done in this conversation? I talked to Carrie Paris, and Carrie Paris said some of the printers literally just reprint or hand it to the people who are hustling. So I'm a control freak. So I'm a little freaked out about, and they can just scan our decks. So I have no control over somebody scanning any of my decks. And so do you guys, will you all do I want an overview, because this is a huge issue for us.
It is. The overview that we talked about before you got here was how to spot the counterfeit decks. They're usually smaller in size. They have QR codes when they come from larger publishers, which Llewellyn, Schiffer, Weiser, US Games, Hay House. They don't use the QR code. So
cool. I knew I was forgetting somebody.
So if you find decks that were printed by them that have QR codes, that is a telltale sign that they're counterfeit. Size is a huge difference, and of course cost is a
Mhm.
huge difference, but we have not talked about, are there publishing, are there print shops that we collectively know of, and I certainly don't because this is all new territory for me. Are there print shops that we know of that are the good ones that we should be sending our indie decks
Yeah.
to, because they're not going to be passed off, they're not going to be
Mhm.
scanned by someone.
Here's the thing. Indie decks are less likely, they still are, but they are less likely to be pirated unless they're highly popular. If I have some decks I backed, not highly popular, and that's okay. I like them. I got one deck that I'm like, oh, I can't stand this deck. I mean, viscerally, the image is like pushed at me. Which is odd because I didn't get that at all when I looked at the samples on live. I was like, oh my God. But there's no way to know the best publishers because I can't tell you that in my wonderful publishing shop, and I've got Kate she's running the copies. She's not union, by the way. I don't do union, right? That's one way you should know these shops. But, and she says, oh, I like that sheet. Oh, and it just keeps going through. Or she can say, oh, that's a bad sheet and put it away and then pick it up on the way out and go sell it to somebody. So you really can't. I mean, that sounds silly when I say it like that, but people can get shit all the time in nefarious ways.
He's not a part of this conversation because I only thought about, he's had a lot of his decks counterfeit. Giro Marchetti.
Oh, Giro, yeah.
Yeah, because that was he talked about it at this last StarCon and trying to figure out how much money he might have lost over the years from his counterfeit, from the counterfeit decks. So Melissa, I know that from StarCon communities and such that you also probably have ways to get a hold of Giro, but that would not be another really good resource for what you're asking, because he could at least tell you where what print shops he's used, and maybe there is a correlation between the decks of his that have been pirated more and ones that haven't, to correlate with certain print shops. But like you were saying, Arwen, I feel like there are so many factors and so many moving parts, so many cogs in the wheel. I don't know that outside of printing it yourself at a union shop that is reputable in whatever country, like reputable shops exist in all countries.
True.
If I don't know that there's I don't know how we fix that besides making sure that people are more educated to not buy the pirated deck, so that there's not the capitalistic financial gain.
There's a major website out there. It has the name of somebody who might have hung out with 40 thieves. And I was talking, you see, that one. Almost everything on there is pirate.
Oh yeah, and I had to stop somebody in the community from trying to buy stuff from there for an upcoming thing, and I explained to them about it being pirated and counterfeit, and they were in shock. And I said, it doesn't matter how big these sites are, where you see them advertised, what feed it comes across. You have to know who or what the site is. Go on and Google the reviews for the sites, because people will talk about, I got this and it was fake.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear y'all say that, because I know what site you were talking about. I have not purchased anything from it, but I came close to
They got great prices.
yeah, and I thought that they were a used book site, which is why the costs were so low. And so what I
And-
am hearing is that either I was wrong, or that there's a mix there, that there are some used books and that there are some counterfeit books, which make it even more challenging to
Well, they sell a lot more
untangle.
than books. They sell clothing and decks and jewelries.
I think
Jewelries?
it's I think of it
Yeah.
as books because I found their site when I was when we were looking for copies of Women of the Golden Dawn, Rebels and Priestesses for the adaptation that we're working on, because we all
Yeah.
need a copy of the book to be working from.
Now, egg books, half price books, those are legit. Go there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but this place with the guy with the 40 thieves, I'll just repeat that. Was yeah, and I do think there's a
Yeah.
mix. I think there's some right and some wrong, but I have never heard of anyone, and I'm gonna put this out there. If you can prove to me that you bought a legit deck from that site, I will give you a 30-minute reading. Okay. So
And yeah,
I'm just heck, I'll give you a
one of the ways I originally found out about it, I'm trying to remember his name, and I should probably stand up and go find his deck. There's a couple in Ireland
oh,
doing what?
Karen and Alex.
No,
No,
this is the guy who did the Neon Pam deck, and it's called the Neon Pam. He does variations on the basic idea of the Smith weights, but he does a Christmas deck, and they're very different pictures, but kind of using her characters. He has blacklight reactive decks.
Guess what?
Blacklight reactive, UV reactive decks.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
Think the old days of our pre-rave and acid trip psychedelic decks. He has the Groovy Tarot and a bunch of others. And I found out about some of these online sites because he sent out something saying he's discovered his decks being put up there, except they're not his decks. And he found out because somebody wrote him to complain that the deck that was supposed to be UV reactive and change color under blacklight didn't.
Well, and isn't that very similar to the person who just reached out to you recently about one of the decks that you wrote?
This week, somebody wrote to me and said that they needed, I think it was a fairy tale. But they needed the book because the deck hadn't come with a book and the QR code wasn't working. And I simply said, you have a pirated deck. Mass major publishers do not use Q codes. Again, guys, indie publishers, people who have done their deck independently, very well may use a Q code to get information for more. Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But these people, and this, I don't know if it was a male or female, and I said, can I use this? And I was going to bring up, it didn't happen. Alarmed again. But what did happen is I was able to educate this person. I said, you have a pirated deck. You need to either buy a new deck from, the publisher or a reputable place, and in the past, I've just told people, oh, you got a rip-off deck, you can go here and get the booklet. And I'm not going to do that anymore because I don't know that somebody will say, oh, I will never do this again, is telling me the truth. I've gotten old, I've gotten cynical. So I don't want to enable people. I don't want to give them an easy way to make their bad debt.
And that's the QR code thing. God, why can't I think of this guy's name? I've talked to him online multiple times. He does have a PDF available online for his book,
Mhm.
He sends you the link when you buy the deck rather than QR coding it.
Jamie
Simply,
does that for a couple of her decks. She will send you, when you get the deck, there's a sticker on there that says, here's where you get the booklet. Although many of us will still say, I didn't get the booklet, where is it? Which apparently makes Jamie do this. So now every
So
deck I
you're
get
the
from her-
reason why that answer is the reason why Jamie is getting out of creating decks and things.
But remember,
Totally Joshing.
Chiro did too.
yeah.
Fair. Very fair. So as
Hand up.
yeah, Melissa.
And it maybe throwing a larger question in here, not that I'm saying that I have any answers for this, but I wonder if some of this also is a larger cultural norm that's happened since, I mean, some of this is just that digital things are available. And so the pirating is a thing, and also access to information. And I feel like what's happened, and I've seen this on social media, and being a lifelong artist and growing up in a family of artists and being old enough to be before the internet happened, is that I feel like there is culture that's happened of that folks should have access to things. And here's the thing, indie decks are a little chunk of change. I mean, that's true. It's not a $14 Doreen Virtue deck. That's true. You know, our decks cost more. Our decks usually are at least 45 to 75. For some people, that is prohibitive. I understand that. And so I feel like I'm not saying that I have any answer to this, but the piece is that I found on social media that does drive me insane, that I did years ago on Instagram do a conversation, and it was a little of a like, you know, mama to the puppy slap down in a way, which was there seems to be this perspective that this art that's anywhere online came out of some magical cloud that anybody can do anything that they want to do with, and that there's not attribution. And here's the issue with not having attribution. I'm in my mid-50s. I have spent I'd say many lifetimes, but I've spent this entire lifetime honing the skill that I have to make these things. I make a living at this. This is not a hobby. And so and here's the thing, you can take images, and a friend says you should watermark everything, which can be taken off, but you can take the image and put it in Google search, and what is this? Nobody does that. And these days, what I find is there's a huge amount of people, and like I say, there is a part of me that has some real judgment about this, is you need to do better. You need to give attribution when you on your Facebook post or your Instagram post are using some art. It's not just all here for you without giving respect, without giving and also the thing is, one, we make a living at this, so you should respect us. But two is, if I like that person's art, I'd like to go do the breadcrumbs and go see the other art that they do, because I might want to support them. So to me, there is a huge cultural issue of entitlement to intellectual property without any consciousness about this idea about respect and about attribution. And I think that that's what's happening. But also back to this financial piece, I wish that I could sell some of my decks for $12 or something. I wish. They cost more. Print on demand decks, and I don't know if people understand this, but if you get a big chunk of decks printed, or something, those prices are more affordable. But when I get some of my decks print on demand printed, the decks, when I buy a group of them, may cost me between $15 to $20 per deck.
Yep.
So when you're thinking, and if you ever want to wholesale, that's part of why those prices get to these prices. Because if you're going to wholesale, you will make nothing. But so I just think I think the larger question also is this idea that I should be able to download any movie, I should be able to download any song, I should be able to use anything that's floating on the internet, and just, it's all about me. and that's an issue. So I feel like I brought two things, is that the cost is prohibitive, but also people need to come in right relationship to honoring where this source core creativity comes from.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I could go on such a rant on how artists are not valued in the United States. That is a whole other segment, which I am so down to do with you, 100%. And yeah, like shifting the culture to value artists, all artists, and tarot artists is well,
Yeah.
and to your point of the cost of printing, that's the reason why this deck, which was crowdsourced by the Portland pagan community, like each one of these decks cost us $25, and we each paid $25 because when you factor in all of the shipping and such, that's how much it cost. So it is 100% a break-even deck. Every one of the artists on here, we each did one picture and submitted it, and I am so sorry I am not remembering your name who compiled all of this. I can see your beautiful face, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting. None of the artists that contributed to this made any money from it, and we did it as a project of love. And I think that is that there's this misguidedness, at least in the United States where I have been socialized, that art is only a hobby, and that if you are a working artist for a living, that you are some sort of millionaire in Hollywood. They don't realize that the majority of us live in the in-between space and make it work in a variety of fascinating ways, because we are in a society that doesn't value our work as work. And it is such a mindset change to deal with.
One of the things I was going to ask. Sorry.
Oh, I think we started speaking at the same. I just wanted to speak to what Melissa said about entitlement, because that's such a big buzzword right now. It's on your bingo card of the 21st century. Okay, mark it out. And entitlement is not restricted to race. It's not restricted to money. It's something that in America, we've been raised to think we deserve it. Right? Mm-hmm. I like that necklace. I deserve it. Yeah. You know, and it's and the idea is, well, you know, the system is against me. I can't make money. Right? And at this point, hey, being 62 and having a bad knee, and you limp into the interview, trust me, they're going to judge you and not hire you. But when we have that sense of entitlement, that sense of, I deserve it. I mean, I don't know why they're telling me I can't have it. It's out there. You know, those cool tennis shoes are out there. I want them. Just gonna walk in and take them and walk out. That's where we need to start. That's the root of this to me. It's this idea that, and I talk to people about buying these sets. Well, it's cheaper. I can't afford the real ones.
Yeah.
You know, you already got paid for that. You know, they paid you for that book. I'm just buying one off this, you know, pirate site, which and makes me twitch.
Those people that
and who's paid? Arwen, who's they? You know, if you're an indie deck creator, there is no they. They does not exist because
Exactly.
you
It's
funded
you.
the whole
d-
thing. It's one person.
Yeah, and
There's
people,
no
and
they.
that's
I wish
yeah, indie
there
deck
was a
creators,
they.
people think they're, I don't know, and there's also this concept, I don't know where this came from, but that, oh, so I'm sorry, but you're not an artist if you're making a living. You should
Oh,
be
yeah.
starving in a garret.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
That
okay.
that myth may
And
die.
Yeah.
Thriving artists in the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they hold on to that crap.
Mhm.
Or they look at me and they say, well, you're
but
a
that's-
published author. You got money. I'm not Nora, okay? Okay, JD. And even she has bills. Her bills are publicity. Her bills are paying. If you get a royalty, here, cold hard fact. Okay, ready for it? I'm gonna drop it. If I get $1,000 royalty for my deck, do y'all know what a royalty means? It's like going to the local check place and cashing 3 paychecks ahead. You're not going to get that money back. It's up front, but then as they sell decks, you expect to make money back. If your decks don't sell, you get to pay the royalty back in a lot of these contracts. Now, I don't believe US Games does that. I don't remember my contracts, but this isn't a lifestyle of luxury. And when authors go, if I was going to go to Egypt, yeah, I could write off part of it as a tax thing if I did research. If I took time to make it a business trip. It's not easy. I've got 9 fiction books out, 9 decks. Most of my decks were work for hire. I got paid one time, that's it. And I agreed to it. I don't want anybody to get mad. I agreed to it. I needed that money up front. It was good. But, where does it say that because I work at Sonic and don't make a lot of money, I get to go buy a pirated something because it's cheaper and I want it? Are we a bunch of 3-year-olds? I want that. And then we just go get it. I don't know what we can do about the societal mindset that Melisai brought up,
Well, I think part of it, and I think this will be a way also to wrap up this conversation for today, is educating people on the actual people and lives that are affected by piracy, because we live in a capitalistic society where we have been taught to just think of things in terms of like money. It is a complete rechanging and reframing of how we look at value and how we honor value in others, in other work. And so part of like where this started in this counterfeit shadowscape tarot that I was gifted, the person who bought this for me didn't know that it was a counterfeit deck. They thought they were doing a very sweet gesture because it is a deck that they love, that they have their own copy that they use that is a legitimate copy, because we've looked at the differences together. And interestingly, there are things about this counterfeit deck that both she and I loved. Like, I love the fact that it is a smaller size. I love the fact that it has a QR code, although I haven't tested it to see if it still works, because it might not. And if it doesn't still work, then I will go out and buy an actual deck so that I know that my money is being put into the actual artists and creators of this. But it takes it takes each of us leading by example in the ways that all of us already are, and having and asking the questions and having these conversations and doing what we can to not vote with our dollars, which is the way our votes count in late stage capitalism, like to put them into the new indie deck that you are coming out with, Melisay, like to put them into the places and the people that we know have been vetted. And in some ways I feel like coming back to our, like, how can we make sure that we don't accidentally buy some, because some of the counterfeit decks here were like accidentally bought, is to also like do that self-test of like, is this price too good to be true? It might be. And I don't know. I'm very much of the belief, and was very much raised that you can save your money to do the thing. And so if I really want this deck, and it's $75 because it goes into the artists and the time and the years of study, and I don't have $75, I'll put $1 away a month or a week and save up my money to then be able to buy it. Like, I feel like coming back to a place of, hey, it's okay to take time to build into these things, and to get the real thing is worth it. Do you have does I'll toss it to y'all first if you have any last things, Paula or Melisay, to contribute, and then I'll let you have the last word, Arwen. Yes.
I was going to say, when Melisay was talking, it was exactly what I was thinking about, which is culturally, especially over the last 30 years. I remember 20 something years ago, my father did miniatures, and he took a deck to have it reduced down because he was making me a fortune teller stand for a carnival midway. And he actually went to a print shop because he worked for a very large company whose product I'm working on right now. Let's put it that way. And he worked in their education department, so he had all these contacts in print shops, etc. And he took them to have them reduced down, and they wouldn't do it because they knew it had to be a copyrighted. It was an original writer weight from U.S. Games. So I waited until I could get a. I did eventually with the computer reduce them down so that I can make it, because it's for my own personal use. And I bought the new mini deck that they had to be able to do it with, so that I made sure I paid somebody for it, etc. But we do have this culture in the last 30 years. Part of it is because stuff can be bought on the internet. Part of it is because people are trying to keep up with the cash cows. Sorry. A nickname for a certain family down here in LA. Where, yeah, I deserve it. I want it right now. And in the last 2 years, especially after I accidentally bought a deck, I now do Kickstarters and GoFundMes and independents, etc. And one of my very good friends down here is a GoFundMe or Kickstarter super investor, and it's all tarot decks. She spent like $3,000 in the last 3 years on just supporting Kickstarters and GoFundMes for new decks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The money
And
where
she
the
got
values are. Budget for moral documents. Yes.
Queen.
And
Yes,
she got
queen.
me started on this and buying people's new independent decks, because I love some of the published decks, but unless I know I'm buying it where the artist is getting the money. I'd rather support the artist. We talk about the starving artist thing. This is going to sound really weird. Being a tarot reader is actually the job I have to support my art as a jewelry designer, because I couldn't make a living with my jewelry. There's just too many of them out there. But I'm grateful that people consider me a good enough reader and I work out of a place where I make enough money that it supported me for the last 24 years. And I think that you're right. We have this, I don't want to call it entitlement. I want to say we have a culture where we have our priority mixed up, that our own value is based on what we have, money, etc., because we want to keep up with whoever. And that the other thing is that I believe that we are not teaching the next generations the things they need to know, like, oh, I don't know how royalties work, what they are, because they have no clue. Well, oh yeah, you got paid when you made it. No, writers and artists don't get paid like that. I have a daughter-in-law who is a independent paranormal romance writer, and she doesn't get paid she doesn't make any money unless those books sell.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's one reason,
Yeah,
I won't go there because I could go way off.
That's
Yeah, that's a whole nother one.
Self-publishing. That's a whole nother one. If you do one, I'll come and talk. Thank you, Paula, for all that great stuff. My main take would be that I am very grateful for the folks who are conscious about this and who do go to our websites, who do go to Etsy. I'm on Etsy. Who are supporting and understand all of the creative capital that has gone behind the creation, and also that it's possible now with print on demand for all of these diverse voices to come through. I'm the soapbox girl about that decks for a long time were 95% Northern European fairies or cats. Like, we need to go way beyond that. And that's happening. And there are many amazing, diverse voices. Praise be to everyone.
Yeah.
So thank you to the people who do come on Etsy, come on our website, Kickstarter. You are so appreciated and we are so grateful. And maybe we can educate the folks around us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want the artist and the author to get the most money if you're buying mass decks, go to the publisher. They don't have to pay Amazon fees. They, go to the publisher or ask your local bookstore to order the deck for you to buy from the bookstore. Win-win. You're supporting local.
Yeah.
You're supporting the artist.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes I have an artist for hire on a deck I'm working with for shipper. And Melissa, you'll be glad to know I'm working on a fairy deck.
We can have fairy. We want more people at the table. The fair. I'm a fairy. The fairies get to come to the table.
The
Fairies here.
I'm working on is going to be.
I wish
some of it. It's diverse. We have gender fluid. We have gay. We have lesbian. We have people who are physically challenged. We have all races and all ages and body sizes. I'm serious. If I see another deck that is nothing but skinny white women, I'm gonna scream. Or skinny women. I'm so done with it.
No, true story.
So, but
True
yeah,
story.
my last words would be: educate yourself. Don't be ashamed if you've been taken by a con artist. That's why they're called con artists. They're artists. Okay? They're really good at it.
Story.
Don't shame yourself, educate yourself, and educate other people. Like when you see this video, share it with 2 or 3 people. That's the only way the word's going to get out. We could be talking into a void right now. All right. We're in
And
an
we don't
echo
want to.
chamber. We're in one of those echo chambers right now because we all agree with each other, right?
Yeah.
There are people out there who think we're entitled white women because we all happen to be that color. We have obviously, it looks like we were living high. Come to my house, please. But you stop laughing, you've been there.
I have,
But
I love your house.
we make assumptions, right?
I
We
want
make,
to come to your house.
oh please, are you still in Santa Fe?
I'm wanting to move back to Abiquiu. So if I move to Abiquiu, I'm going to come visit you, girlfriend.
Yes, you are. Okay. Sorry guys. But it's the whole idea of counterfeit decks is who does it benefit?
Mhm.
Right, that's the very
Mhm.
base of this. Who do you want your money to go to? My husband and I were just talking about the fact I'm going to Tide next weekend. It's in Dallas. We don't want to spend our money
See you
in Dallas. We don't want to spend our money in
See you there.
Missouri, Wyoming, Tennessee.
Mhm.
There are a lot of places going on that
Mhm.
list
Yep.
of where we don't want to spend our money.
Idaho.
Oh, you right?
Mm-mm.
New Mexico.
Florida.
Oh, but New Mexico is we're still very much a blue state. We've got our idiots. In fact, tonight I'm going to the Rio Rancho City Council meeting because we have a group called massresistance.org. Look them up. They're a hate group, so identified by the Southern
Poverty Law Center.
Poverty Law Center, and they're coming up again to talk about banning books.
Oh.
But we fight them. We fight them back, but they've gotten in all over the place. So I digress big time.
Yep.
Seek joy, y'all.
And share this video and educate people on not buying counterfeit decks and all of the ways y'all already do. And hopefully now you watching will have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.